Hey, innovators. COVID-19 is always on our mind. I mean, how can it not be? Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's got tips about it. We're looking at the news. It's all about it. Everything around us is kind of a little bit like, it feels like a little bit of doom and gloom. But when we look at how, we look at COVID-19 to think about all the things that's taken away from us, we may forget about what it's actually given us. So did actually COVID-19 also give us a gift? Is it an opportunity? So I sit down with the wonderful Jessie-Lynn MacDonald, and she is brilliant beyond belief. She actually helps her clients through, and she's known around the world for this, of, helping her clients through breaking through some of those self-imposed limits and fears and struggles and challenges. And she really awakens us to our beautiful and infinite potential that we all have within us. So I absolutely adore her. She actually helps a lot of parents, children, individuals, schools, companies, and she really does consult globally around the world. And she's been in tons of different summits and a speaker. She's a very well sought out individual. And I'm really lucky because I get to call her my friend. We end up having a really lively discussion about COVID-19 and the impact. And she sees this time as quite the opportunity and gift if we can actually embrace on it. So we end up chatting about everything. We talk about the impacts on our minds and how we can actually control it a lot better. We talk about a blue light versus a snow globe feeling, how stress is a love note to your body, how to identify those stress signals. Because sometimes I think that we don't know all our stress signals. And I surely am constantly learning every day about it. The power of autonomy and what it does for kids, for adults, and so on. And then she gives us some big secrets, like there's some good ones that we have. We talk about embracing our inner child, how empathy really enables us to be more kind and forgiving, not just to ourselves, but to others. And it's really amazing to think about how much what we see is usually a reflection of ourselves. So we really be able to channel into that. We talk about loneliness versus boredom, and we talk about, the value of recognizing the grumpy goggles, and there's so much more. In fact, I actually admit that I may secretly want to be a gamer because I've now discovered how to play video games, and we're all going through this change curve a little bit differently, and we talk about that and how this allows us to really find our diamonds that we actually are and remind ourselves of all those things. I really think you're going to enjoy this episode because I surely did. And, I wanted to really make sure that you have something that's really kind of practical and tactical. If you stick around at the end of the show notes, you'll definitely get a freebie. I actually created a really nice gratitude journal that I've been using myself because I definitely don't want to forget about these moments, because when we get out of it and we go into this new normal, there are things that we're going to forget that we actually appreciated. And I don't want to forget those things because I am really grateful for a lot of the things that are out there. And I've discovered a lot, and I'm sure everyone has. So anyways, it's a free downloadable gratitude journal all for you. You'll just click the link and enjoy. And I can't wait to hear your comments on this episode. I thought we really had a lot of time and a lot of fun and a lot of giggles. And, it's a lot of inspiration that's out there. So hope everyone's staying safe, and I can't wait to hear from you. Welcome to the Can Innovate podcast. We focus on providing you with timeless professional development secrets and essential business life skills in a mini bite-sized format. I'm unlocking the vault and sharing best practices that management consultants have been using for decades. We're unapologetically curious. Enjoy. It drives me insane that, everyone just is so busy about figuring out what people would resonate with, that they don't think about what it is that they really want to be known for. And better yet, what they are actually good at and what they're actually interested in and what they want to actually do. When you're doing research, it doesn't feel like research. It feels like you're exploring something new and just really having fun. And I could be on the internet for hours at a time and it would be gone. Like all the time is gone. But I don't feel like I've wasted time because I'm like, I've learned something, I saw something new, and I'm like, I just got a chance to be curious, like Alice in Wonderland, right? And go through the rabbit hole, and it's just so crazy.
Well, and you know what, from what you said there, the fascinating thing is that when you're creating stuff, if you create stuff that lights you up and that's kind of your passion, you're sharing that with the world. The right people are going to hear it. Your message isn't going to be for everybody. My message isn't for everybody, but the people that it's meant for are the ones that are going to hear it and are going to be like, oh my God, and that's the magic.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's so funny because someone was talking about, who my audience is. I'm like, my audience is me. I've always been serving me because what I wanted to learn. It just happened to be I wanted to share. And other people started, that were similar, like-minded, came along for the ride. Yeah. And I love that. But I'm serving to learn from me and not just teach, but I'm learning. It's my own professional development. It's my own way of thinking about things. Right now I'm doing all these episodes on COVID. Why? Because there's so many different elements about COVID. And I can't wait because we're going to talk about health and well-being because that's the doozy.
There is so much.
And I just did an episode about, how, now I think that people have in the past 10 weeks or 9 weeks, they gotten over that, the fun of, I get to cook at home and blah, 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 the novelty. Because now it's like, oh God, I got to cook. And they're looking for inspiration of recipes and then, how do you sustain this whole momentum? Yeah. So I did one about, curiosity of an episode about how do you tap into those things and so on. And, because there's just so many elements of it that I can see that, that if some people wants to launch a business, that's a different thing, right? Like there's so many opportunities that COVID has actually provided us. And I actually, you're going to love this. I actually told a friend of mine that I've actually been enjoying this isolation thing. And, because I feel like it's been a human timeout. Like a timeout for adults. Like
yes, and it's kind of like pressing the pause on things, and then you get to reflect: are those things that really matter? Do does it really matter? And then I was doing an exercise the other day because I was like, what do I want and what's missing in my life? And I started to look at the things that really make me happy. And those were like things like connections. One of the things that came up is the girls' weekend, kind of like what we used to do, kind of the getting together. That space of just being around people and the connection from that, it's simple things. And I was like, okay, that's my new to-do list. It's not going to be like all these gazillion things. It's really just peeling it back to the bare essentials and having lots of those.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like it's kind of crazy because someone was asking me about dating. I said, you know what? I've kind of parked that. You know why? Because I have other things that I want to tackle, and I want to use this time out right now to do that. So when I'm ready to go, whatever it is, I don't have to think about, I wish I did, I got the opportunity to do all those things that I've been wanting to do and to build different types of habits. And, it's hard. Like even by yourself, it's hard to build new habits, right? Like
it is
discipline and, But it's kind of really fascinating, like really, really fascinating about, and I can't wait. Like one of the things I wanted to write about is, I wanted to actually put on Instagram just to see what people would say is like, what are they going to write about us in 2030?
Yes. Yeah.
Like seriously, what will they write about us?
Yeah. The
year that the world learned how to wash their hands and become resourceful and became kind and had gratitude. Is that what they're going to write about? Like I really am curious to see how this will go down in the history books.
Right. And so, because we look back and you see people referring right now to the 1918 pandemic. Yeah. So we're looking at that and reflecting on that. But the funny thing is you see the similarities. People are kind of isolating, staying away from others, taking care of themselves. And it's fascinating. I'm curious to see that too. I hadn't thought about that actually, but that's that's an interesting thought.
I actually really am fascinated. And you know what I should do? I should do an episode, get about 4 or 5 of us just on that topic.
Yes.
I think that would be such a fun, interesting conversation. We'll have to get some really kind of off the wall people.
Right. And you just you get everybody together and there's this, there's so much magic happening right now. And when you see times of tremendous growth and innovation, it really comes out of this. And this is why, in my humble opinion, it's because people's minds settle in a different way. You're not on that busy schedule. A lot of parents that I work with their kids who have anxiety, or the kids that I work with, their parents are like, oh my gosh, their anxiety's gone down. And I'm like, yes, because you've given them time, and their lives have time to settle, and their minds get time to settle. And all of a sudden, the anxiety or anxious thinking settles. Do you know?
So that's fascinating, because this is what I find really interesting about this is that, I saw one of your articles that you posted on My Mental Health Rocks, and it's not, parents shouldn't be thinking about, and this goes back to people for work in the working world too, right?
Same.
Like we shouldn't be thinking about the education that we're missing, all that stuff, but it's the actually anxiety that's actually being calmed down, and the mental health. Yeah. Because it's really fascinating that you've picked up on a different way of seeing things.
100%.
That others don't see that, because, my niece, one day she will listen to this podcast in 10 years and go, why were you telling everybody about all my stuff?
I see.
She used to have a hard time going to sleep at night. And I'm curious to know whether or not now, because she now gets her time to read, and now she's talking to her friends, and by the way, I don't know if you know that the Facebook Messenger has a safe version for kids.
Yeah, got it.
Oh my God, I get phone calls all day long for my nieces and nephews, and I absolutely love it. Like there's no tomorrow, but it's that they don't need permission to go and talk to people. And they're, and I think they're now connecting differently with other people too, and building those relationships.
And such an important, I'm so glad that they did that. I'm so glad they did that prior to the pandemic, because this is a thing where the connection part of it, the kids need, they really, really need it. But just to circle back to what you were saying, do you know what, when I'm talking to organizations about well-being, it's so the same. It's the same everywhere. But people don't understand. This is my favorite example. It's my beautiful bottle that I made. So you can see, this is your mind when it's settled. It's completely clear. You can see through it, right? This is what happens when you have a clear mind. So this is why when people get their aha moments, it's in the shower, they're on vacation, they're out for a walk, because they're not engaged in thinking about it. So a different part of your brain happens. But this is what happens when your mind is really busy.
For audience listeners, you can. The bottle has gone really crazy blue. That looks like sparkles, but
beautiful, right?
But it looks like a lot of stuff going on, like bubbles, sparkles. It's really deep blue. Where before it was like a very light, clear blue.
No, so and this is what my approach is quite different from a lot of approaches, and this is what I tell organizations all the time, and I tell parents, and I embrace this. I live it as a parent. But even when children that I'm working with is, what, when your mind looks like that, instead of adding extra strategies on, because when you add extra things to do, like this is the thing, so this is a technique you can use. This is a technique you can use. You're still shaking it up. If you just do that, it will naturally settle. That's how we're designed. And so with organizations, and with families and with individuals right now, when you just let your mind settle, this is where innovation happens. So this is why well-being in cultures and in families is so important. And when you see, like when I'm working with kids who their lives are so, like every minute of their day is scheduled, they don't have time to come down, And it's the same in organizations. When you're go, and you don't have time and you don't address the well-being part of that. You know what stress is? Stress is just that. When you look at stress in a completely different way, it changes everything. Stress is one of the psychiatrists that I did some courses with, he says stress is a love note from your body. We look at stress like it's a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. It's saying, you know what? You need to step back. You need to let that mind settle, and your body, the impact on your body, let it settle.
What's fascinating is that it was really weird. I came back to work in January, and I was actually talking to my boss, and, he's asking about the holidays, and, everyone comes back from the holiday feeling a little, relaxed and everything. And I actually said to him, I realized what I've been doing wrong in this role, but it's also the company and the culture and everything else. And, whatever it is, I've become so transactional that I don't have time to think.
Yes.
And this goes back to your light blue bottle about being able time to think. And we don't give ourselves time to ever do downtime to actually be able to do whatever it is, to reflect, to think, or whatever it is, because we're so busy thinking about, I've got to jam in 20 other things in the day. I've got to grocery shop. I got to cook for the kids. I've got to get to work. I got to drop off. I got to do pickups. I've got to then, they got dance class. Got to make sure they get fed a snack in between, and then make sure the food is made. And, don't forget to prepare lunches. They got homework. It gets like, I could just see the sequence of like, that by the time it's like 11 o'clock, you've only got 1 hour to yourself, and you're exhausted because you got to get up at 5, 6 in the morning to do it all over again, because we've just crammed so much more.
And it's just like, even like, you don't have a glitter jar, it's like a snow globe. Same thing. That's exactly what it is. And this is what I tell people, is that if in companies, the innovation that happens when you actually have time to because here's what happens when your mind is really busy, like when the glitter bottle was all shaken up, you don't have space for other things to come in, right? And also what happens is you're looking at life through, do you remember when people actually used to use cameras? You would zoom in on something, aging myself.
What are you talking about? The camera's on our phone.
But like if you zoom in, you can't see something, right? Yeah. And that's what happens when you have a busy mind. When you let your mind settle, it zooms out and you get to see so much more. And the potential in that is incredible. And it's like people don't pay attention to the signals. This is why when they say that mental health affects your actual physical health, 100%. If you don't feed into the mental wellness part of it, then it becomes problems. It shows up in your body in different ways. It's little love notes to say, hey, pay attention.
So tell me, what are some signals that we should kind of look for? Maybe I don't even realize there are signals. I just think it's like I've just become so it's part of my whatever. I just don't pay attention.
If your mind is constantly going, you're busy. If you say that you are too busy and you don't have time, that if you're not spending time with your family, if you're not spending time with a connection to yourself, if you're so engaged in things, then that tends to show up in stress. You feel stressed. You feel anxious all the time. You feel like a really busy mind. It's that there's something always going on there. And you're always engaging in something, and that you can't get to that pause place, that space that's in between the thoughts. If you can't see that space, if it's constantly going. And this happens when we are overscheduled. And I think this pandemic is a gift for people to see that, oh my goodness, we actually, when people say, I don't have the choice, I'm going to call BS on that, because you do. When I'm working with my clients, I'm going to call it, because do you actually not have the time, or are you choosing? Yeah. Where are you choosing to spend some time? I just posted a mental health challenge this week, and today's challenge is, stop scrolling on social media and turn the news off. Take a day that's not about that. And then you have that time to do something else. And that's what it's about. And that's, and I say it for organizations, I say it for adults, and I say it for kids. We are all the same. It's so important.
I think it's really fascinating to see. And like I said, I really think it's like my eldest niece, like she honestly, trying to get any information out of her is like, honestly, Like it really is. And then yesterday, and then you think, oh, maybe you're not as close as you think. And then she said the weirdest thing to my sister, her mom, and said, "Mom, what happens when mom and dad, you guys die? Where do I go?" And so my sister said, "Well, probably to Sapnamasi." And she's like, "Oh, good. Oh, that's good. Oh, I can't wait for that." I was just like, okay, so we are close. Like what I mean.
So good. I can't wait.
I know. She's such a dork. It's unbelievable. But it's, but I love the fact that she's thinking and asking those questions where before she may not have asked those questions because she wasn't engaged. Like she was a shut-in. She came home from school. She wanted to read her book. She wanted no one to talk to her, whatever it is. And now I can see her engaging. She's talking to me so much more on this. She's got the freedom and autonomy because of Facebook Messenger for Kids to talk to her friends or whatever it is. And they're talking about things. And then she's got tons of different books and she gets to read whenever she feels like, as long as she finishes her chores and schoolwork and whatever it is. And so she kind of knows the landscape of what needs to be done, what doesn't, and she controls it, which is kind of very fascinating, where before she did not have that control. Just like us in the work world.
100%. And this is a thing with kids. And this is where it's like, we love to feel like we have a sense of control over what's happening. Same with kids, Yeah. And so our first week of kind of lockdown, we didn't have a schedule. And then it wasn't working by the end of the week. I was like, clearly we need to have a family meeting here because something needs to change. So what we implemented is a schedule. So, so we have the morning routine of math and language, the afternoon routine of reading, chapters of a book and maybe watching a different TED Talk or exploring something that he's interested in. But we also have a flexible routine, which somebody called me out and said it's an oxymoron. Not really. Do you know what? If one of us has a day where we're low, he could be here nice and clear. What you see, it's coming down. When I didn't do anything with this, it just became clear. Yeah. So he could be sitting in a place where he's feeling fairly clear and I could be low, or vice versa.
Yeah.
We shift it up. Then it's like, you know what? Our schedule is flexible enough that we're okay to change. The thing is, everybody thinks that this pandemic is a time where we have no control over our lives. Here's a big secret. We never did. Life is going to happen. Life happens. And if you don't have that ability to pivot, if you get so stuck in that need to be in and control everything, and then there's so much resistance that you're shortchanging yourself and your potential. And same thing with kids. Making kids feel like they have a little bit of control, that Messenger is great for that, is a wonderful thing. And giving them the time, you have some time, explore. Mm-hmm. What do you like to do? Get curiosity. I say, I don't care if you're like 9 or 99, but I can tell you the best examples of somebody who just embodies life is a 2 or 3 year old or a 4-year-old. My neighbors have a 2-year-old, and I love watching this child. He's so curious about everything, and he doesn't stop he doesn't fall and then think, oh my God, what is everybody going to think? He just gets up and keeps doing what he's doing. It's when we get bogged down with this narrative in our mind that we stop doing things. It holds us back. So if you want to know how to really live life, go watch a kid.
Yeah. And that's the funnier part, because the baking, 10 weeks in, the baking novelty is gone, whatever it is, right? And also not just the productivity of always having something to do. I've got to clean my closet, spring cleaning. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. Do you know what I've been doing in the past week and a half? And I haven't, and honestly, it's mind-boggling to me because it's kind of embarrassing. I've been playing video games. I haven't played video games since I was probably in my teens or whatever it was. I forgot that how much fun it is to play video games, but I never gave myself permission to do it because it's not productive. It's not going to amount to anything. It's not going to go with my career. It's not going to go with my business. It's not going to go with this. It doesn't help me with whatever it is. But you know what? It's just fun.
So here's a fabulous question. So when you say who made up the rules that this wouldn't be productive, this wouldn't be all these things? Who made that up?
Oh, probably me.
You did.
Yeah.
You're the one who's so here's the fascinating thing, that this is what we do. I remember one day I had this huge to-do list and I didn't get it done, and I was just I was judging myself, criticizing myself, coming up with then I was like, I started laughing because I was like, who made up that list? I did. So I'm getting mad at myself for something that I made up, because that's what we do. So here you are, you're kind of judging yourself and you're probably getting a lot of enjoyment. And you know what? That creative brain is going.
Oh,
you are feeding those, like you're feeding that.
Yeah, and I'm also feeding a new habit because I'm trying to decide, do I buy a PlayStation? Do I buy an Xbox? What's the cons?
I'll put Finley on the phone for that one.
I'm going to need advice from a child because I have zero clue. But it's so funny. Like, I just never got, I don't know. To me, it was time wastage and, But honestly, it's just actually a little bit more, it's actually fun. It's actually very fascinating, some of these new games than the games that I grew up with, because I'm like, oh my gosh, these are like so much more trickier and so much more challenging. And it's actually really great for the mind. Some of these games are really great for the mind. And I think, and I go back to, jeepers, why wasn't I paying attention to that,
But, and that's exactly, it's so much fun to kind of get curious about something that we would previously judge or not try, because we have but we make up that judgment. So when we take off those judgment goggles and actually just embrace it and get curious about it, we can discover so many amazing things. Like the potential is limitless if we're just open to it.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly, like I said, it looks like a new discovery for me has been, I'm starting to do a little bit of, gardening, and I'm a wannabe gamer.
I wouldn't have, so my son, so Finley, he plays this game called Fortnite. And it's we have a TV in the basement and not on the main level. And so one day I was working and he said, Mom, will you come downstairs and just kind of, do your work beside me? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then he's like, well, do you want to try it? And I was like, the only, full disclosure, the only video game I think I've ever played is my friend's phone, Frogger, on it. When we used to go out to the bars and she would go to the bathroom, I would if I was awkward by myself. So I have no idea. So he's like, will you try it? I'm like, yeah, sure. Within minutes, I destroyed this whole world that he had taken so much time to create. And so he takes the thing back. He's like, you could just do your work now. He's like, I don't think I want to play with you anymore. Yeah, but there's magic in just being open to discovering something new.
So tell me something. What advice would you give to people that are still struggling with this COVID? There's a lot of anxiety of going to the grocery store or anxiety of going outside itself and seeing people. It just, not everyone has kind of embraced all those things. What advice would you give them?
It's, first of all, it's knowing what's right for you. And the whole thing of when this first happened, that people were coming out with, oh my God, so redecorate your house, empty your closets. Everybody should have this really clean house and do this and do this and do this. You know what? So what? Everybody's made this up. The thing is, you have to do what's right for you to feel healthy and contribute in society, the ways that, whatever the regulations are. But knowing, and if you're feeling, a lot of people are struggling and seeing all these other people who are baking these cakes and who are doing these things and who are posting something online, and then they feel, oh my goodness, and then they start judging themselves, and then it really puts them in this really dark, lonely corner. So first of all, I say, don't judge yourself. And everybody's going through this, and everybody will experience this differently. So I can guarantee you, if somebody posts something on social media that's a beautiful cake, probably 12 hours before that, they were in this crap storm of thought. You just never know.
Yeah.
We're all going through like this up and down, up and down. It just doesn't, not at the same time. So what is shown on social media might not be a reality, and it never is, pre-pandemic and now, and definitely post-pandemic. There's so much unknown about this. So people are like rushing to find this new normal so that they can define what that is, and, you know, and that they think that's what's going to make them feel better. It's they're putting value on that. So knowing that there is a lot of unknown and giving yourself the grace to be in that space and be okay with that. And finding sources that work for you to find out as much information as you need, and then leave that. You don't need to be inundating yourself all day. Like my mom listens to CBC radio all day, bless her heart. But, you know, it's just a lot, you know, and that's when you're constantly hearing that, your body is having a physiological reaction to that. And chemically, then you might start to feel low, you know. So it's doing things, find things that give you a little piece of like some joy, you know, whether that be gardening, whether that be gaming, whether that be reading a book, writing, cleaning your closets or not. Finding what actually brings you a little bit of peace and focusing on and making sure that you do that. And if you are feeling lonely and you are feeling a disconnection, reach out to somebody. Reach out. You know, it's okay to feel whatever. So there's the other thing. And this is, again, in all the time. And I say this when I'm talking to kids, I say it's okay to feel all your feels, same as adults. We tend to think that there's something wrong with us if we're feeling anxious or scared or, you know, whatever. You're a human being. All of these feelings are natural, you know, and they come from a thought that we're having, or a narrative that's going on that we're hearing or that we're engaged in our heads. So it's okay to feel them. You are not your feelings. You know, those feelings don't define you. And that's the other thing, is just to have some like kindness and support for yourself, and be gentle. Be so gentle with yourself and those around you, because again, we never know what somebody else is thinking or feeling in their own space. So the other thing I would say is, you know what, if you're struggling and you're struggling with the thing, and don't judge what some people, I see all these things, people get mad at people who are not wearing a mask when they go out and saying this, or, you know, they see two people in the park and then there's like a whole story going on about that. You know what? Choose what you're engaging in. From a mindset point of view, an energetic point of view, and just, is this feeding my soul? Is this good for me? Is this worth my time and energy?
You know, you hit something, lots of great nuggets there, because, and I couldn't stop taking notes because I thought that was so great. But, you know, first of all, it is okay to feel all those feelings, and not understand what those feelings are about. Because I think a lot of the times we spend time, we have to solution everything and understand everything immediately. But the truth is, we haven't been feeling enough and letting ourselves feel, you know, and I'm also very guilty of that, because I became very transactional, not feeling enough. And, you know, the point about being, you know, kind and forgiving to other people and yourself on different things, you know, it goes back to that point. We need to be more empathetic. So, for example, I saw a post about a mother, and she takes her daughter or two kids or whatever to the grocery store. And on the back of the backpack of the grocery store says, "My mom's a single mom. She can't leave me unattended."
Yeah.
Right. And then, you know, and then I see the things about people getting so mad because people don't wear masks. Well, you know, the truth is, I don't even know where to buy a mask. Like I've tried looking online, and two, the messages are conflicting out there. They say if you can't social distance, wear a mask. So I see tons of people that are walking in their area or whatever, and there's nobody around, and they're wearing a mask. And I'm like, why? Don't you want to breathe fresh air? So, you know, I think people are too busy they looking at the rules and not looking at it from a context point of view, that there could be multiple reasons for different things that are happening around there.
Yeah.
And it's so quick to kind of say, some stores are opening where other people saying, well, I don't want to be a guinea pig, to open up a store that I'm not prepared to open, and, and so on, because I don't have the safety. Well, everyone, like to your point, they're going through a change curve differently, and
Hugely.
they don't want to be, some don't want to be early adopters of it. And some people are ready to kind of embrace it and just go and figure things out as we go along. And, some people always say that I'm too strict because I don't leave my condo. I only go out once a week, and because of the elevator and all those things. I might lax it a little bit because I have now learned how to take certain precautions, and I've built it as a habit. I may be a little bit more flexible now than I was before, but I'm still going to be very much more aware of things. So I think the thing that I take away from this conversation is that there's no permanent set of rules. Everyone is learning. Nobody knows what is what it's going to look like. And the comparison with the Spanish, pandemic way back when 100 years ago, well, they talked about that the second wave was the one where it was the bigger thing than the first wave. And we're still going through the first wave. So we shouldn't be complacent, but we do need to continue living life, but we need to do it in a way that's controllable. But then it goes back to your other point of saying, this is a gift. It allowed us to reset certain foundations in our life, and now we can actually increase some controls and some areas and then decrease some, but not going gangbusters like there's no tomorrow as to the back of the old days of just running around rampant. It's kind of having that whole, like, let's just go slowly, pace ourselves. Does it work? Okay, then I can build on it. But if not, pull back,
your well-being matters. And so the thing is, do your due diligence. Like when you're going out and stuff, I wear a mask. I have the 80% alcohol stuff in my car. I have Lysol wipes for my car. You know what? I do what works for me. And I understand somebody else is going to do what works for them. And I limit myself and my choices, but I take ownership for that. Yeah. You know what? What I think is normal might not be what somebody else thinks is normal, because we look at life through our own individual lens, right? And if we can just go with that, because you might have such a strong opinion about how somebody else is doing something, but in the grand scheme of things, you're probably not going to change that person's way of doing it. But so what are you doing to yourself by getting yourself all worked up, And that's the thing. And for sure with this, I was reading about, somebody was talking about change theory. And I think maybe we had a conversation about, I don't know, but there's kind of like the chaos, the acceptance, and then the new normal. Mm. But our new normal, like you say, there's going to be like a second and third wave of this. So some people could be in the chaos, and then there's others. So you see around the world that people are, like, I work with clients around the world. People are in different stages of it. And moment to moment and day by day, as human beings, we fluctuate. You could be, I can't even tell you how many different feelings I've already experienced today. We don't stay in one feeling. And so there'll be people who kind of go into this acceptance phase, but then with maybe their toes dipping in the water, and what's that going to look like? And that's the thing, is where, like, I'm always saying to people, even if you're going to kind of embark on a new journey, organizations, if they're thinking of new strategies, small bites, take nibbles, because if you can do things that are tangible things that people can accomplish in smaller steps right now, that's going to go farther. And then when this new normal comes, not everybody, who's going to know what it is, The new normal is temporary because life changes, life happens. And if you can incorporate that kind of pivot, the new normal is just pivoting. One day we're here, one moment we're here, one day we're here. If you look at it like that way, and this is the thing where people hate change, but change is a part of life,
It is.
If you can incorporate that into your well-being, into your child's well-being, your organizational well-being, such a gift. Such a gift.
Jessie-Lynn, you have always got so much value bombs. It's unbelievable. I always take so much away from when I talk to you. Like, I really do, because why? I mean, you've got a talent and a gift of many different things, like, really do. But what I love about you is that you see things from so many different elements. And then the fact that you work with schools and children and parents and troubled youth and companies and businesses and like, you work with so many different facets of people that you really see so much. And you still see the good in everything and the possibilities of everything and that opportunities for everything. Like, you really give this, when you give this kindness and empathy that you really give the rest of the world hope. I don't know if you realize that, but every time my interactions with you, you give me this whole, feeling. I feel like there should be angels singing or something like this. Ah!
Well, it's funny. So there's one of my colleagues in the UK. This is what we talk about. We say that, sometimes we feel like this. We feel constricted and restricted. And then all of a sudden it's like, there's so much pure potential. When I'm talking to kids, I'm not talking to their behavior. I am talking to their highest potential. When I'm talking to anybody, actually, any of my clients, but if you see that, think about it with your staff. If you're talking to them not about maybe some of performance that you're seeing is not really like top of the line, but you talk to their highest potential, they feel that. So can you imagine putting that out into the world?
Yeah, that's a skill I need to learn.
But I'll tell you a story that actually is very heartbreaking. One of the most profound things that I've been doing over the past couple of years is working with women and children who've been trafficked. And I talk to them when they come into a safe house. And at first, when this idea was proposed to me, would I be willing to do this? I said 100% no, it's not going to work. Here's the thing, how we limit ourselves. Here they are, another part of the world. How am I going to create this space, And then I thought about it. I thought, what? Maybe. So I said, I'm totally willing to give this a try. But there was like language issues. There's so many issues. Sapna, this has turned out to be one of the most life-altering things I've ever done, because you just said yes. Like when these girls, when I first started talking to them, some of these people, when they come in, they don't even feel like they deserve care. They don't feel like they deserve medical attention. They feel so worthless. And through this weird and wonderful space that we've created, and then the short, oftentimes that I work with them, we create these amazing things. And when you see the diamond that's within somebody else, they start to embrace that, and it's magic, and it's like, it's amazing. And I just think the world would be what a different space if we all worked from that.
Well, I definitely think you're definitely a diamond. That's for sure. Not a diamond in the rough. You are a diamond. But to go back to your point, way back when we were growing up, just to let you know, I'm dating myself with Jessie-Lynn as she talked about Frogger. I recognize that. There was big sisters and big brothers.
Yeah.
And it was for people, it wasn't that, and that at that time, we didn't know it was about mindset or whatever, positive influence. Yeah. It was just having someone, so people didn't feel alone to talk to at that time. Yeah. And they had a role model that could be somebody that was potentially there. But, those types of things, just like career counselors in schools would help you find your, career, all those types of basic things that we used to have growing up. And again, obviously we're children from not millennials, but but some of those foundational things, are really instrumental, and it is something that has been taken away because of whatever cost cutting, whatever it is, and all those things. But there's more because of the lack of those things. It's become a bigger need for those things. Plus, with all the technology. And, it's something that I think that we as a society really need to pause and think about a lot more. And, I always get worried about people that are feeling lonely in this time of, thing. And then when you look at the technology that's been out there, that's put in place.
Yes.
And the adopters now are like people that you wouldn't have thought to be adopters. Like they're just, they have now that, reason to connect with it faster than anything. Like my dad told me the other day, I almost laughed my ass off because I got a check and I said, "Oh, Dad, do you have any checks? Do you want me to go deposit for you?" And he says, why don't you just take a picture and so it deposits in your bank account, as if I'm the idiot, right? And it was so awesome because that generation is all about putting it into the bank account, make sure you see it, like
the bank book.
Right? Like, it's very different. And it's now so much more different that they're, you know what, they're all okay with it. Now I'm stuck. I have no choice. So they have to become the adopters. So the acceleration for these things. And then it has now provided children with freedom and autonomy because parents can actually be able to see what's kind of going on. And it's really, if you look at each different demographic and country or whatever it is, it's shifted in so many different ways that it's actually a beautiful thing, you know?
So I love that about your dad, but that's just so funny given the nature of your career. But there actually is still big brothers and big sisters. And I looked into it for my son. The wait list is incredible, which goes to show the need that's there, and even like coming out of this, what I say is, again, 100%, if you focus on the mental health, and when I'm talking to kids, when I say mental health, I'm talking to their wellness. That's my focus. When I'm talking to an organization, it's the wellness of the organization. Like tapping into that, exploring that, getting curious about it, and feeding it. It's the wellness part of that. And that's what we need to do here. And there's so many, like you see the wait list for that. You see so many people suffering. Why shouldn't it be okay to say I'm lonely? Why is there such a stigma to that? Like I do these listening posts, and when I first, and basically, so sometimes I'll just go sit up at a coffee shop with a little sign that says I'm listening, and at first I thought, okay, curious to see how many people would come. I brought a book. I thought I can get all these things done. You know what? I wasn't alone for the 4 hours that I was there. There was always somebody who came to chat. And my mom's in a home, and prior to this, we'd go see her daily. The people, like we got to know everybody because everybody just sometimes wants the connection, like he's like the connection, and they want to be heard. I don't care if you're a kid. I don't care if you're 99. I don't care if you're the leader of a multi-billion-dollar organization. People are lonely, and they want to be heard, and they want to connect. And that's, for me, that's the magic. If you can create that magic in that space, then it's golden.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's a fascinating topic about loneliness. Like, part of me is like, it's kind of funny because I never ever felt lonely until, not too long ago. And then when I felt, I'm like, oh, that's an interesting feeling, because I hadn't actually, because I've been so busy.
Right.
That I didn't see it. And when I was actually lonely, but I didn't realize, I just thought I was bored. So I think there's something that's interesting about, the definition of loneliness, if people don't realize that is what it is.
Yeah.
Because versus boredom or versus something else. Like there's so many.
It's fascinating that you say that you didn't know what it was. And there's the thing too, is that when we feel these things, we often think we have to change them. You don't have to change it. You don't have to, like I said, same as like this beautiful, clear now, glitter jar. You don't have to, it'll naturally happen, but this is what happens. And this is why people get addiction issues and all this like self-harming with kids and stuff like that, is because when they're in a feeling, they feel like they have to escape from that feeling. So, and that's the thing. And so even like with loneliness, reaching out, but there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, right now, sometimes with Finley, my son, I will say, you know what, I have grumpy goggles on right now. When I have grumpy goggles on, the lens that I'm looking through, that's what I'm going to see reflected back to me. And it's okay to say that. And it's okay. I give myself timeouts all the time. And I'm just like, you know what? I need to go. I'm going to sit in my room for a few minutes because I got to shake that glitter bottle. I should settle because I'm human. And people don't embrace being human enough. Just be human. You know what? It's a mess. It's a beautiful mess. Like it's not all the Instagram posts that are like the filters and
but next time you get your grumpy goggles on, you need to play Frogger. That's what you need to do, is play Frogger.
What or put on music and dance. I forgot I love to dance. I am the worst dancer in the world. But man, I love to put that music on and crank it. The other night, so I'm from Scotland and they have this Kaylee, they have these online Kayleys. And they had the music on. I just cranked up my speaker and I was dancing around. And you know what? I don't care. But it made me so happy. So it might not have been Frogger, but I might have looked like Frogger.
Don't worry. But you know what? It's just that, that's what it is. Like, I'm a horrible singer, but I sing out loud everywhere I go.
Yes.
Because I love it. You know what I love? I love that I'm bad at it and I know I'm bad at it. And everyone looks at me like my nieces always get irritated because they're like, can you please not sing in public? I'm like, that's cute. They just walk away.
So you know what? So here's my secret with that. I just say everybody else is melodiously challenged. It's not me.
Nothing. I just say that the fact that they're not singing with me, they are suppressing it because they know they want to sing out loud. Because we all know, Wham Bam is very catchy, and before you go, everybody wants to dance.
Frankie says, "Relax."
Totally. Or Footloose. Come on. There's no shortage. But anyways, this has been really good. I think we've got a lot of great value bombs. Jessie-Lynn, how can people find you and connect with you?
So my website, I'm going to be, it's on my to-do list. So it's JessieLynnMacDonald.com. They can email me, JessieLynnMacDonald@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook. You can friend me. I'm on Instagram I think it's Jessie-Lynn Mac. Twitter, same, LinkedIn. Reach out. If you have questions, comments, you're feeling lonely, you want to chat, feel free to reach out.
And honestly, looking at all the testimonials, which honestly is no surprise when I look at your website, like people, and honestly, I know this. I've known this for you forever. You know how to take the spaghetti from my head and turn it into something that's actually really beautiful without me even noticing it. So that's what I thank you about. So,
that's nice. Thank you. I've loved this. Now we need to do a reverse and I'll have you on my podcast.
Done and done. I love it.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for joining and listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or any other episode, please share with your friends and colleagues. You can share on social media, the email link, the newsletter, and so on. Let's continue to support these Canadian innovators and help them really grow into bigger brands. Awareness and knowledge is totally key. Anyways, I can't wait to talk to you next week. Cheers.